South Hills, today I want to celebrate what we did a little over a year ago. We set out to start a campus in a completely new state, and we weren't sure exactly how this was going to go because it was some very uncertain times during that moment. And as we ventured off into the state of Idaho, into the city of Eagle specifically, we were excited to see what God was going to do. And sure enough, since we've launched there, Pastor Randy and Hansi have been doing an amazing job connecting with the community. And I want you to hear from Pastor Randy as he shares a little bit of what's going on in South Hills, Idaho.
Hey guys, my name is Randy Sherwood, and I am the campus pastor at our Idaho campus. And we launched a year and a half ago. And in the last 18 months, God has done incredible things. One of the things that's resonated so deeply with people here is this idea that we're the perfect place for imperfect people. We have seen people who are completely unchurched come off the street, get invited, and come and experience God's love and say yes to Jesus. We watched people take a step in declaring their life and their love for God through baptism, and watch people get involved in serving and in small groups and connecting and building community and studying the scriptures. We have served this valley and this community in so many beautiful, powerful, and creative ways. And all of that is thanks in part due to you. Thanks so much for your generosity, for allowing us to be a part of the vision that God has established here at South Hills. Because of you, there's a church that exists in Eagle, Idaho that did not exist 2 years ago. A special shout out and thank you to the team and all of the folks at South Hills, Idaho. It is such an incredible privilege to be a part of what God's doing here each and every week, that people's lives are being changed. Thank you so much for being a part of what God's doing.
This is just the beginning of what God's going to be doing through South Hills Church as we venture off into more and more new states to continue to open up campuses and allow God to move through communities. Join me today as we celebrate what God is doing in South Hills, Idaho.
Daydreaming at work? Yeah. At home? Yeah. I've been caught a lot of times. And we've been on a 4-week series on the practical theology of work and how this relates to our daily lives and God. And I want to just give you a quick recap of the past 3 weeks. Week 1, we talk about how work is not actually a bad thing. But sometimes we expect work to do something for us that only God could do in our lives. Week 2, we spoke about the importance of having a calling, our voice. What's our voice, our calling in the world? And that our calling is not dependent on a job. That each and every one of us, we have a calling, and we need to partner with God to find what is our calling, our voice. Last week, I really loved because we talked about the nature of rest. Everybody say rest. I got a lot of messages that week saying, man, I appreciate that message about rest. Yeah, everybody wants to rest, but we have a responsibility as well to rest. But in order to rest, we must have a healthy perspective, a good rhythm of work and rest, which leads us into week 4 of our series. Have you ever had this thought on a Sunday night? Do I really need to go to work tomorrow? Maybe you're retired and you're like, I don't ask myself that question no more. And maybe it's Sunday night, you're like, really? Is there something more than to just work? Is the goal just to go work, then die, and then or retire? Does God have a goal for our work? Is there a purpose for what I do? Because surely there is something more beautiful than just showing up day after day to our jobs. Now, not only have we been called to work from the very beginning, but according to God, we have been called through our work to provide and be a blessing into our community. A lot of us think that we just go work to get money. But what about if we work to be a blessing into our colleagues, into our community, into our corporations? Genesis chapter 2, verse 15 says this: God took man and set him down in the Garden of Eden to work the ground for what? Help me out here. To what? What did God do? Took the man and what? Told him to rest. Told him to rest for a week. Drink a piña colada. No, he said, hey, I'm going to put you on the Eden to what? Work and keep it in order. So God made Eden, this paradise, then took Adam and told Adam, hey, this is going to be your occupation. This is what you're going to do. Work this land, keep it in order, manage it, make it better than how I gave it to you. Now, this is interesting to me. Why not keep it as is? Why not just say, hey, Adam, you know what, just sit down and relax. Don't do nothing to the land. But God said, work it, make it better. Why? For him, for God, for Adam. There was a generation coming after Adam. Adam was going to have a wife, kids. And God said, hey, I'm going to put you in this Eden, on this earth, to make it better for the generations that are coming after you. So, essentially, work is an activity that serves to satisfy your needs and others. See, whether you work as a mechanic, and God bless the mechanics. Because if there's something that stresses me out, it was when my car's check engine light comes out. Oh man, I can't sleep. I don't know, I forget I'm a husband and I go crazy. I get stressed, but thank God for those mechanics. Whether you're a banker, a teacher, a full-time parent, a caregiver, a business owner, you're in logistics, or an artist, you actually have a bigger part to play in the world around you. Why? Because we have been called to participate with God in the restoration and renewal of all things. See, we are God's plan to help bring displays of his goodness and his kingdom into the world. And for some of us, this sounds like a big, big responsibility. I mean, how would we do that? How can we display God's goodness and his kingdom into this world? Through what? How? But first, I want to show you a verse that we've never read. But I did some homework for you to show you guys this morning. In Proverbs chapter 11, verse 10, it says this: when it goes well for good people, the whole town cheers. When it goes badly for bad people, the town celebrates. These are short, sweet expressions, but have rich wisdom. So according to this verse, there's a certain group of people that prosper, and when this certain group of people prosper, everyone is celebrating. It's not just the people that are prospering. Everyone is happy. Everyone is prospering. But you might find that a little odd. Because sadly, this is not how it works in our culture. In our culture, normally the people at the bottom are disgruntled, they're jealous, they're mad at whoever's at the top prospering. They say, why don't they share? Why are they so mean? See, we have a tendency to say the richer get richer and the poor get what? Poor. But that mentality is actually incorrect. There's a Jewish community, and they're called a Sarakim. Everybody say Sarakim. You just learned Hebrew. You could go after church with your family and say, Sarakim. This group, this was a community of people that loved God. And they understood that they had a purpose in life. And they said, hey, every blessing we get from God, whether resources, money, wealth, power, influence, they took it as a gift, a blessing from God. And you know what they did? They broke bread. They shared. So when they were prospering, they would share it with the community, and the whole town would cheer because they would just share everything. These people understood that they were being blessed by God to be a blessing. They were displaying God's goodness on to the people. It was not a self-enrichment. They were willing to disadvantage themselves for the common good of the community. Now, knowing this verse, which we've never read, makes more sense. Because the Sadakim were taking all their resources and sharing it with the people. Now, if we pull this all together, God is saying, hey, you are righteous. You are just. And he's saying, why don't you guys do the same? Why don't you guys be a positive influence in your community, in your jobs, with the work, with the gifts that God has given you, with your talents, so other people can benefit from it. See, we are God's plan to bring displays of his goodness and his kingdom into the world around us. In fact, this is exactly what God told Abraham, Father Abraham, before he sent him out. He said, hey, I'm going to bless you. But take a note at the kind of blessing. There's a specific detail of this blessing. Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 to 3, it says this: the Lord has said to Abraham, go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all peoples on earth will be blessed through you. That's incredible. God was going to bless Abraham, and because of Abraham, the whole world was going to be blessed. See, God shows up in Abraham's life and he says, hey, I need you to move away. I need you to go, move 50 miles east. And Abraham's like, say what? Serious? De verdad? What? What's going on? If you do that, I'll bless you. I'm going to get myself and I'm going. Abraham obeyed. And this is why today we remember Abraham's name. His name is super famous and he's blessed. But God promised to bless Abraham, and look at this detail. He said, I'm going to prosper you. I'm going to bless you in every way, shape, or form. But here's the detail. Not so you could keep it. So you could share and bless the community. I mean, this didn't only happen to Abraham. It sounds similar to what God told Jeremiah when Israel found themselves beaten, bruised, and exiled from Babylon. They were in a place where they hated to be. They felt lost. They felt totally forgotten. And they showed no interest to be where God told them to be. In fact, let's read it. Jeremiah 29, verses 4 to 7 says this. This is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says to all those I carried into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon. Verse 5 says, build houses and settle down. What did God say? To what? And settle down. Plant gardens and eat what they produce. Marry and have sons and daughters. Find wives for your sons and give your daughters in marriage so that they too may have sons and daughters. Increase in number there. Do not decrease. Overpopulate. Get busy. Have kids. And let your kids marry. Number 7. Also seek the peace and prosperity of the city to which I have carried you into exile. Pray to the Lord for it, because if it prospers you, you too will prosper. In other words, it wasn't God's responsibility to put them in the land and say, hey, you're blessed. They had to work for it. They had to work at it. And these Israelites, when they went into Babylon, they felt they were in a less than a wonderful situation, lost. They felt stress. They're like, I don't want to be here. Anybody felt like that before, where you don't want to be at a certain place? Not like right now, but anybody feel like, oh, I can't wait to get here. Why am I here? God, what are you doing? This party doesn't have steak. What's going on? But listen to what God told them. Hey, I understand you don't want to be here. I understand you don't like your neighbors. I understand you're not in a great situation. But you know what? Hey, just settle down. Build houses. Grow a garden. God said, you might not like it here, but work it. You might not like it here, but be a blessing. You might not like it here, but seek prosperity in a land you don't want to be in. And this morning, whether you find yourself entering into a land of goodness and blessing like Abraham, or a painful job you don't want to be in, or a difficult season you find yourself in, God's desire for you and I is that we work for the good and the flourishing of the world around us. See, let me just, let's act like if you're in my house, living room, we're having an honest conversation. Work isn't just for your benefit. If others are not benefiting from your work, you're doing it wrong. For those of you who call yourselves, hey, call South Hills your home, and if you're visiting here, this is not for you. But if you call South Hills your home, I am very curious this morning. Are we prompting celebration in our cities, in our neighborhoods, and in our office buildings? When you go into the office, do people like, here he comes, he makes everything better, yeah! Or when you come, everybody hides. Oh, here he comes. Oh, my goodness. In fact, when you're walking outside, turn on your sprinklers, and you see your neighbor, you run home. Because you can't get along with your neighbor. You hide from your neighbor. Does your neighborhood benefit from you living there? Do they celebrate you? Because like Proverbs said, when a certain group of people prosper, everyone is celebrating. Are there any celebrations or rejoicing when you get to work? Or do they celebrate you when you leave? I remember a couple years ago when I resigned from my job to become a pastor. I put in my 2-week notice. And then, you put in your resignation, and all of a sudden, 2 minutes later, the whole company knows. That's awkward. And I got a lot of texts. I got a lot of calls from people in the company that couldn't believe I was resigning. And I got one call in particular from someone from the corporate office. And in talking to this person, they said, Ozzy, be honest with me. Why are you doing this to me? I'm like, what do you mean? I just heard the sad news. I'm like, you know, it's time for me to leave. This job has been amazing, but now I'm chasing my vocation, my calling. And I won't never forget the conversation we had. Because this person told me, you know what? Out of everybody here, I think like you're the most honest one. You never gossiped. You always bought me lunch. Your work got done. You never caused stress. You made my work easy. And you know what the cool part is? And I didn't know that she just told me. Word on the street was that you made everything better. And this is what she said. And I think you, being a Christian, has a lot to do with it. Are we flourishing at our jobs? Are we making people better around us? Or when they see you, they're like, I'm out. I can't stand this guy. Your work isn't just for your benefit. It's to benefit your colleagues. It's to benefit your boss. This is how you serve God through your work. And maybe you're here this morning and you feel like your work is insignificant. Maybe you've had a handful of jobs and you can't keep one. And you're like, what's going on? Maybe your work is like so unglamorous that you're like, I cannot serve God through my work. I put a patty between two buns. There's two things God is asking you to do this morning. 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 24 says this: brothers and sisters, each person as responsible to God should remain, everybody say, should remain, in the situation they were in when God called them. This might sound a bit confusing, but let me help you understand this. First of all, it is super interesting that Paul, the person who wrote this portion of the Bible, he wrote this in the section between when he was talking about marriage, he was talking about singleness, and boom, all of a sudden he says, oh, by the way, don't be a job hopper. Why don't you just stay in your job and make the best of it? He had to fit it in somewhere. He makes an important statement about work. And we may feel that getting that perfect job is the most important factor for you to do the best job you can. But Jesus seems to think otherwise. Jesus is much more concerned that we make the most of the job we're at or every job we've had throughout the course of our life, which is why he says, hey, why don't you just remain there in the job you are at and make an impact instead of looking for that perfect job. Sounds like what God told Jeremiah. Stay there, build houses, be a blessing there. So what does God want us to do? It's very simple. It's just bloom where you are planted. That's simple. Bloom where you are planted. No matter where you work at, no matter what you do, bloom where you are planted. What opportunities are there in your profession to bloom, to grow, to bless others, to be a blessing? See, bloom where you're planted means how you look at your job. How well are you doing it? In fact, are you blooming as a stay-home mom and dad? Are you blooming as a nurse? Are you blooming as a teacher? Are you blooming serving individuals or a society at large? Are you blooming in excellence at work and as a person? I love how scripture details the way God does things. In Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 10, it says this: every time you find work to do, what does it say? You guys can help me? Every time you find work to do, what else? Say it again. One more time. Every time you find work, whatever you're doing, do it the best you can. In other words, God is saying, can you just bloom? Can you just grow? Can you just do everything with excellence? No matter if you work at Chick-fil-A, no matter if you're a teacher, no matter whatever you're doing. This is why. Because in the grave, there is no word. There's no thinking, there's no knowledge, and there's no wisdom, and we are all going to the place of death. So God is saying, hey, I don't know if you've noticed, but in the afterlife, once you're dead, hello, there's no activity. Woo-hoo. You cannot be excellent once you're 8 feet or 10 feet underground. So he's saying, why not do it now? In whatever you are doing, why not be excellent? And he's saying, don't wait till you find that perfect job. Doesn't matter if you hate your job. Doesn't matter if it's unglamorous. Do it the best you can. Because I think there's something else at stake here that God is trying to tell us. He's saying, do it the best you can at work. Because your work and how you do it is the only Bible some people will ever read. Your work and how you do it is the only Bible some people will ever read. They might not go to church, and it's okay. But the way they see you work and the way you're doing things, they're seeing Jesus through you. And you have that confidence to say, hey, you want to see Jesus? Watch me work. Watch me handle my business. Watch me here get early. I want to also just add this. Blooming where you're planted doesn't mean you can't improve yourself. Doesn't mean you have to stay stuck in an awful place. There are times where you could get transplanted so you could bloom even better. What else is God asking you to do so your community flourish, so people benefit from you and celebrate? Number 2, just share what you have been given by God. What are the skills, the gifts, the passion, the resources that God has been giving you? Maybe it's volunteering in your community. Maybe it's volunteering at church. Maybe it's doing local outreach initiatives. Maybe it's using your agency or your company to have a positive impact in your church and in the community. Maybe you're business-minded, but you also have a heart for ministry. Maybe that's your voice. Maybe this is how you get to impact your community and make it better. Maybe you have a gift of tithing, but you need to do better and share your resources through a community of faith like this one. What is it? What are your skills, your gifts, your passion? Maybe you have a heart for leadership, not just volunteership. What is your gift? What are your passions? What are your skills? What is that thing you know God called you to do and share with others and you haven't done it yet? See, for most of us, we devote hundreds and thousands of hours at work. Some of us even more. So work matters. It's significant to you and to God. But my question to you is this: out of these 1,000 hours of your work, are they disconnected to your faith or from your faith? Do these hours connect in a meaningful way to who you are called to be? So my question for you this morning is this: how can you connect your work to God's work? You might want to write this down or take a picture. But how can you connect your work to God's work? And this morning, our homework is this: take time to journal about how your work can benefit your community and serve God. And I want you to be specific. Don't downplay anything. See, if you're a stay-at-home mom, don't downplay, oh, I'm a stay-at-home mom, I'm raising my kids. You're raising your kids, but you're just not raising kids, you're raising the future. You're raising the next generation. Oh, it's because my work is, it's like, I don't do much. You just don't do much. What you do is important. Whatever you do is important. So God is saying, just do the best you can at it. Show your skills at that job. Maybe you're in customer service and you deal with a lot of angry people. How many have had that before? Yeah. Maybe you're in customer service and you get that one call with somebody screaming at you and gives you a bad attitude. But the way you're going to get celebrated and the way people are going to benefit from you is because you're going to have a different attitude in customer service. And while somebody's screaming at you, somebody's demanding something from the department, you can act and be different and just greet them and love on them. This is how you change the world. So in what ways is your work an opportunity to do it skillfully and excellent? How can you share the gospel in your work? How can you motivate, engage, and influence? Because no matter what kind of work you're doing, you're helping God. And you're helping this world flourish like it should be. Let's bow our heads and let's pray. God, we want to thank you. God, such a topic about work where we might not think it doesn't hit home spiritually. But it's the opposite, actually. It's super spiritual, God, that we pay attention to our jobs. It's incredible spiritually, God, because it's an attitude towards something we are doing. God, and sometimes as humans, as people, we forget that it's just not a job. It's not just where we go to work on Monday morning and that's it. There's got to be more to it. And with our conversation this morning, you have proved that there is more to it. We have been called to be a blessing. And you've not only proved it with Abraham, but even when the Israelites went exiled, they complained. They were stressed, they were mad, but you told them to stop complaining and bloom where they were planted. God, and this is what we want this morning, to bloom, to grow, to flourish, not only in our jobs, but it's spiritually with you as well. God, because maybe we're not flourishing, maybe we're not blooming in our jobs, maybe we can't hold a job because our relationship with you is not where it should be. Maybe our relationship with you is not blooming. It's not growing. God, but I ask that this morning that changes. That changes not only how we deal with you or treat you, God, but the way we see our work changes. Because through us, our communities, our neighborhoods, our jobs are gonna get blessed. Through us, we will be the only Bible people see and hear. God, and that's a blessing. What a privilege to not only carry a Bible, but be the Bible, be Scripture, be somebody that could reflect you. God, I pray for everyone that is sick this morning. I pray for everyone that has came with a condition in their body. I pray if somebody is in here and is thinking about changing jobs, that you give them the wisdom, God, and you give them that discernment to make that right decision. And I pray that for everyone that is here that is holding a job or a stay-at-home mom or dad, that whatever we do, we're not just called to do it, we are called to be a blessing to everyone else, where others get to benefit of me being in this world. Others get to benefit of me living in my community. God, what a blessing. God, and I pray that there's people here this morning that are having hard times, going through financial problems, going through issues with family. God, maybe they're about to make a decision that it's not under your will, Father. I pray for every situation. I declare healing. I declare direction. I declare your blessing above all. God, thank you so much. Thank you so much. There in your seat, take 20, 30 seconds to pray and talk to God. God, thank you so much for this morning. Thank you. Because this is how you make us better. Because tomorrow when we go into work, our attitude is going to be different. The way we see our work is going to change. The way we do our work is going to change. We're going to go in with confidence, with our head held high, that company is blessed because of me. Father, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Why don't we stand on our feet and sing along with the band?